Welcome to the Contagion podcast, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each episode spotlights and interviews one transformational leader, their stories, and their advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. If you are a visionary seeking to uplevel your leadership skills, then this is the podcast for you. I invite you today to spread inspiration like a contagion. Welcome to the Contagion movement. Welcome to episode 23 of the Contagion podcast. Today's episode is a special release as we're actually sharing this just a week before Anne's Serendipity event online. Today's show is also being recorded, so if you'd prefer to watch, please see the show notes to see the YouTube link so you can check that out there. Please join me in welcoming today's guest, Anne Cocquyt. Anne is originally from Stuttgart, Germany. She's a serial entrepreneur and corporate innovator in San Francisco. After building partnerships for Genentech's innovation team, she founded her own startups and conferences and serves as an advisor to tech startups, angel investors, and corporate innovators. She mentors at the German American Accelerator, Singularity University, and USF, and connects women in the innovation ecosystems through the Guild AI platform and through workshops. Welcome, Anne.
Hi, Holly. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. All right. So, Anne, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and, just what you do for a living?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we go back and see where I'm coming from, you said that Stuttgart, Germany. It's been a long journey, and it's been a journey all around the world. So I grew up and studied in Stuttgart, Germany, and always knew it's not the right place for me. So I left after studying, after college. I went on this crazy around the world trip, and I explored a lot of different countries and regions, including Southeast Asia and Australia and the US as well. And then came back to do a consulting job in Switzerland, which took me traveling again, this time to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia and to Hungary and to the areas in UK and England. And then I said, you know what, I think there is an entrepreneur in me, and perhaps I'm an artist even, and I should try and check that out. And so I did that for a few months. I had a stall on a Christmas market in Switzerland and never froze so much. and then realized, maybe that's not my calling. And I went traveling again. For me, traveling is inspiration and sort of trying to figure out what's next. And I was called back to a project in England. I did that for a while, and then ultimately decided to come to the United States. It was just for a friend's wedding, and then you know how these things go. All of a sudden, I found myself married in San Francisco after 2 months, really, and realized all of a sudden, oh my God, this is the place I was always meant to be. This is where I can be who I am, and this is a space for ideas, and this is a place where a lot of people say yes and not no but. And ever since then, I joined Genentech first. I did a consumer product startup with my husband. I dove really into the entrepreneurial ecosystem here, built connections and partnerships with a lot of accelerators, incubators, and venture capitalists and entrepreneurial ecosystems. Super involved in the crowdfunding space for quite a while when that was a new thing. And then ultimately decided to leave my role in Genentech's innovation team, where I evaluated a lot of digital health companies, and then said, you know what, I think we really need to do something about women in Silicon Valley and in the world, because it can't be that there's always just men on these panels and on the stages, and we feel like we're not included by we stand in the corner and drink a warm glass of Chardonnay. And so that's where the idea of a community came from, and a movement to build more inclusivity into entrepreneurship and being a woman in the business world. And ultimately that led me 4 years ago to leave my corporate job and to start a startup called The Guild, which is now a global community of female entrepreneurs and investors and innovators from, South Africa to Azerbaijan, all the way to Silicon Valley, where we connect people and women specifically to fulfill their full potential and start their own businesses. And that's what I've been working on the last 4 years, among many other things.
Yes. And when Anne says she's a serial entrepreneur, she's not kidding. And I must say, I'm a member of the Guild, her community. I've also participated in Serendipity, her event, which we'll be talking more about at the end of the show. And she has a really unique and special ability through the AI platform and whatever protocol she's put in there to connect people based on likeness and gaps that they may have. Every single connection I have made on that platform has been just so inspiring, helpful. They're all really smart and they really care about the cause that Anne has built for this community on that platform. So I highly recommend that you check out the Guild because it's pretty phenomenal. Also, I love the journey that you had globally and that you found your husband when you found the right home for you in Silicon Valley. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And I think a lot of my journey and traveling made me a better entrepreneur, because there's a lot of risk taking. There's a lot of ambiguity when you travel, and you have to flex that muscle. It's not going to be there overnight. So I highly recommend for anybody when it's possible again to go travel and to go check out different cultures and just see the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I also find traveling really inspiring and it provides you new perspectives to look at things because the more cultures you can serve, especially today, the better off your future product or service will be because ultimately we are serving a global economy as things are shifting more and more online. So I highly recommend traveling as well. But since you're on the Inspiration Contagion podcast, I would love to hear what makes you an inspirational leader or what's your secret sauce?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question, Holly. First of all, the question is, am I a self-proclaimed inspirational leader or do people say that I am? And I think you're only inspirational if you actually inspire people to take action or make change. And the change that I create in people by sharing my story and by creating the community and the content and the resources that we do in the Guild, what happens is that people start to understand that there's a bigger, better version of them in themselves. And then they have the permission to be that version and to, as cheesy as this might sound, fulfill their full potential. And I feel like a lot of us don't fulfill our full potential because we hold ourselves only accountable to whatever boxes we put ourselves in. And having traveled a lot and having jumped out of a lot of different boxes and having had these interactions with people that said, no, you can't do that, or that's a mistake, or, these naysayers, I really understand deep down that whatever you put your mind to, you can do. And whatever you want to create, the change you want to create in the world, there's ways for you to do that. And what I do is I help you see what that could look like. And I'm not just an inspiring person who's on some stage and tells you amazing stories and then I say, believe in yourself and now go do it. I actually really give people, especially young and not just young, but early stage female entrepreneurs, the tools and the step-by-step guides of saying, here's how you can start your own business. Here's how you can create the life you want. Here's how you can create that dream business. And it's not about the money. It's not, maybe for you, but it's not about like these 3 comma clubs and all the stuff that's out there. It's really about you solving a problem for somebody out there that needs you to solve that for them. And that's true for coaches, that's true for tech startup founders, that's true for people who want to innovate in the skincare space, and that's true for people who want to build enterprise software to make the life easier for those employees. And we really go in and say, okay, A, we give you a community and we inspire you to be part of that community and to really ask your questions and to give back to that community. And we give you also the educational tools so that you're not sitting there and you're thinking, oh my God, how am I going to start? How am I going to ever get this business off the ground? I don't have an MBA. I don't know how to do accounting. I don't know any lawyers. We're going to give you the step-by-step guide how you're creating a business. And we give you the community where there is these people and those experts that you can connect with to make that happen. And then the rest is on you. And that's, to me, that's all I do. And for some people, that's very inspiring. And for a lot of people, that means that they are starting their businesses. They are getting funding from the VCs that we introduced them to, or the angel investors. And they are building solutions and products for the world that we want to see. And that to me means to be inspirational.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's incredibly inspirational. That with the economy and the way the world is today, we're going to need more entrepreneurs. People have lost a lot of jobs, and so we need to find services and products and solutions to help the community. And like you just said, it's not just about money. There are nonprofits and foundations that are providing solutions to gaps that they're uncovering, and they too need help with how to start that up. So I love that you're helping connect the dots and allowing people that space to realize their passions and provide them with that startup roadmap so that they can actually start taking that action. And I couldn't agree more that the most inspiring leaders are the ones that encourage you to actually take action. Because like you just said, it's on you once you have those steps, right?
Right.
Okay. So what does inspiration mean to you?
Well, I love to be inspired by people who make me take steps that I didn't think I could take before. Right now, I feel there's a big lack of inspiration in this country, quite frankly, from the leadership down. And, if we're just taking 1 second and looking at COVID-19, there's really no inspiration out there of solving this problem. It's like, oh, either you wear a mask or you don't wear a mask. That's what it came down to. And that's what our inspirational leaders are telling us. And to me, that's not inspirational. Okay. So what would be inspirational would be to say, hey, we have an opportunity here to rethink a lot of things. We have an opportunity to rethink education. We have an opportunity to think how we want to work, how do we want to connect with our families and our kids, and why don't we take this moment that has really shaken up all our lives and start thinking how we want to live. And why is there no leaders out there right now that are asking those kinds of questions, and why is it all really just political? And like, I don't care about politics right now. I just care that we're all healthy and that we're living a life that's a little bit better than the life we lived before. And isn't that what it's all about? Like gaining happiness and being being part of the evolution of the human race. But the evolution needs to mean that we're going in a direction that is better for us and for this planet and for those that come after us. And so to me, inspiration is really people who give you the permission and the tools to actually take that action to create that change. And and I do that in entrepreneurship world. We're a small part of a bigger movement. We're not the solution to everything, but we're a small piece of the solution. And that to me, myself, is inspiring. And what then is super inspiring on a day-to-day basis is seeing the women in my community take those steps. And we just launched our 3rd cohort of the Guild Academy. It's an 8-week online program. And these women signed up in the middle of this pandemic and said, I have an idea and I want to learn how to bring this to the world. And now they're going through the steps of idea validation, which one of their ideas is the one they should try out. And then they go and they talk to users, even in these crazy times when it's very difficult to have one-on-one interactions with other users, right? It's all online now. And then they're creating these MVPs, minimum viable products, and they're putting them out there. They're getting feedback. they're marketing them, et cetera, they're launching them, and then they pitch at our pitch day at Serendipity next week. And so that to me is so inspirational. And when I hear them talk about, the problems they're solving, this is insane. Like domestic violence, one of our entrepreneurs is solving because of her own experience. Another one is finding a coach, the right coach that's the right coach for you. Like which career coach is the right fit for you? A lot of women struggle with that. And what happens, they don't have that support. And then they get into terrible spirals in the corporate world. And this particular woman was discriminated against because of pregnancy discrimination from a very big tech company. So she's creating a solution. Another company, they're creating a new skincare because they feel like there's too much toxic materials in skincare. We're actually damaging our skin and our health. And so she's putting her mind to that. And the list goes on and on and on. And I'm just incredibly inspired to see all these women, put down their foot and say, okay, I'm going to do that. And that to me is hugely inspiring.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, like you just shared, it is kind of hard to find inspiration today. And it would be great if people actually came together, regardless of political lines, and just started ideating. There's so many smart people in the world. It would be great if we could just use that intelligence and come together to make the world a better place and our country a better place. That's all I'll say on that. I'm so grateful you're doing what you're doing with these women because, like you just shared, we definitely need help with domestic violence, especially with COVID. It's making that spike quite a bit. That's just so inspiring and brave. It takes so much courage to take on the goal of launching your new business and becoming an entrepreneur, and particularly during a pandemic. So I'm really grateful that they have that tool with you to utilize that. So I also wanted to ask you, because we all know that success is defined in a lot of different ways. So how do you define success, and how did you arrive at this definition?
Yeah, that's another hard question. I think, having grown up in Germany, success to me looked a lot like winning. So that was the A+ you could get in school, or winning that competition or whatever it was. And there was to be won. It also comes probably a little bit from my background and my family. I grew up in a very academic family. So knowledge is the highest, possible goal you could get. So you always want to pursue knowledge and win in that situation. So now when I then progressed through my career, I realized that, values are really, really important to uphold within your career. And they were not always upheld, especially in the consulting world, I would say. And that clashed quite a bit with at least the values that I found important. And my values are all around value creation for others, right? It's not just about extracting money from other people or businesses. And that clashed a little bit in the consulting world there when I did a lot of IT consulting in that space. And then I have to say, at Genentech too, when I worked there, a lot of people who are hired by Genentech, which is very similar to the other big tech companies here in Silicon Valley, they're all these Ivy League A+ students. And so success always means to get that next promotion, and it doesn't even matter what the role is, you just have to get that next promotion because that means success. And in many, many cases, it leads to people being in manager roles that shouldn't necessarily be there. And it leads to people kind of being put on a wrong path where their skills don't match their ambitions. And I think a lot could be done with coaching there to help people get back to the right path. But to me, for a while, it looked like success to climb that corporate ladder. And then I realized, you know what? It's not what I want in life, and it's not what makes me happy. And so ultimately, also because of the influence of California and a lot of friends and my husband on me, I realized that for me, success is being very, very happy. And I don't need to be in the 5-star hotel in the Netherlands where there's chocolate strawberries waiting for me in the hotel room each week to be happy, because in effect actually made me very unhappy, because if one day the chocolate strawberries weren't quite right or they weren't there, I was unhappy. And it created this crazy system in my head where I would always be angry at people all the time for no reason, right? And to me, that's not success. That's just being a sad human being. And every day when I get up, I kind of feel a little tingle, and I feel like, oh, let's see what happens today. And maybe one of my entrepreneurs has a breakthrough, or we're going to hear from this wonderful lady, and I'm so excited that she's coming onto our webinar, or whatever it is. It just makes me excited. And to me, success is that, for me personally, that you live your life and you love it and you're happy.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that to find that happiness, understanding and having the self-awareness to be clear on the values that are important to you, and making sure that those align with your career track or your business track, and just your life in general. It is so important. When you're out of alignment, there's things that come up with your health and your mental well-being, and it just shows up in negative ways. And that's kind of a sign that you're not on track. Also, I love that you brought up the career corporate ladder thing. I too felt like for a long time, because this society and the corporate world trains us that climbing the ladder was, the definition of success. And once you reach the top, you would have ultimate success and everything would just fall into place. Well, I mean, like you said, a lot of people are climbing that ladder and they're not aligned with their actual skill set. And I feel like this is one of the biggest challenges in corporate America, and even sometimes small businesses, is we will hire the wrong person for that role, or we'll force somebody to climb that ladder. And it's really important that, when we go to conferences on leadership, it's not just about leading from the top. There's so many ways to lead from a place and a role that's the right fit for you. So anybody listening, I hope that encourages you to reflect on your value set, as well as reflect on if you're aligned with the right path for you. And if not, get some help so that you can pivot and find that happiness that Anne is describing, because we ultimately all want to wake up with excitement every morning. So, Anne, I love that. We all know that there are challenges and obstacles that happen along the way. So what are some of the challenges and obstacles that you faced along your journey to success and happiness?
I think we just talked about it. It really comes down to people, right? Like getting the right people in your environment and in your circle is so important. And I have made many, many mistakes. And I also feel like we're not teaching that enough in our educational systems to choose the right people and flex that muscle to really understand who is a good fit for working with me, who is a good fit for being on my board, who is a good fit for developing my technology, those kinds of questions. And so in my corporate career, I had a lot of managers and bosses that I thought they were not in the right place, and they had a lot to learn. And a lot of them learned on the job, and I'm not necessarily sure that is creating a successful, sustainable system. And then in my startup career, I hired a lot of people I shouldn't have hired. And it's interesting because you always have to fight this, I need somebody now versus, is this the right person? And then you get stuck with them, right? And then you feel like, no, I have to make it work. I can't let that person go. And for me, it's really hard to let people go because I hate to disappoint people. And in my opinion, it isn't a disappointment because they usually like to work with us. And so, I have to show them that where they are right now is not the right place. And that's really tricky. And I have to say, I think in many cases, I pulled that trigger too late. which then meant it didn't serve our community or our company, right? And so I think as a founder, you learn that very quickly, that you have to be very decisive. You have to make decisions very quickly, and you can't waffle. And in the beginning, I was definitely somebody who would hear somebody out 3 more times than I should have. Yeah, and I think really a lot of it hinges on your team and on the people you surround yourself with. And that's true for people you hire. It's also true for people that hire you, or that are your investors, or that are on your board. So definitely make sure you do your due diligence there, and you talk to references, people that these people tell you should talk to, and also some people that they don't tell you to talk to really understand what person that is, because it's very difficult to now, especially when you only do digital interviews, to get to know a person at the level that you're really comfortable working with.
Yeah, and I know in addition to that, I completely agree that the education system doesn't teach us enough about soft skills and people skills, as well as even just managing a budget, which should just be part of the core curriculum that we have in starting in elementary school. That's kind of crazy to me as well. But also when we talked last week, we were talking about one of the most important people relationships, and that's finding co-founders. And the struggle on a lot of people that start a company. You have to have really strong self-awareness for where you have your strengths, but also where you have your biggest weaknesses. And I believe you also shared that not having a particular skill is not a weakness, because you can either hire somebody to do it or you can learn that skill. So what are your thoughts on how to find a good co-founder?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And we get a question almost every time first week when we run a Guild Academy. And we, in fact, have some templates and documents prepared for that. For the financial planning one, where we give you a budget, where we put in salary lines and everything, and it all kind of shows you at which point in the next year you're going to be in the positive or the negative, or how much funding you need. And it's a done for you template. You just have to plug in your own numbers and you see what happens, because a lot of people don't know, and they start these businesses and are so excited, but then they don't know what their bill of material is, if you're building a physical product, or what it takes to build a digital product, and what the developers cost, all the stuff. And so we just make it really simple, because we've done it so often, and I've done it too. And not just in the Guild, I've also done a few other businesses and acquired some businesses, and I mentor a bunch of businesses, which I haven't mentioned, but I see it so often that I realize, okay, let's just make this simple for you. And the same is true for co-founders. So we have this assessment where you can write down, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then see who is the co-founder we need to hire. We make you write a job description for that co-founder. We also make you think about the different categories of founder types that are out there. I think you mentioned one, Holly, last week, and we use John Littman's 10 entrepreneurship phases to say, are you the athlete, or are you the director, or are you more the librarian, or who are you? And then, because you're good at that, what does it mean? What does your company need as a second or a third position to really make this happen? And then we also make you go through a checklist once you have found a co-founder. We built that checklist together with serial entrepreneurs and also law firms to really go through it step by step by step. Okay, like simple things like, how about our desktop and our phones? Are these company expenses or are these personal expenses? How are we going to compensate ourselves? When we have to make tricky decisions, who has the right to, make the last decision? Is it always 50-50, or is there CEO who makes the decision? How are we going to decide who's going to be on our board? how are we going to create our employee share pool? All these questions. I mean, it's a long list. We just list there so that you can think about it and go through it. Because what usually happens is people say, yay, this is awesome. I'm super excited. We're doing this together. And then the first thing happens and people are like, whoa, no, I thought we would do this. And the other person says, no, we can't pay that much to this person. And then, you have all this stuff during running the business rather than deciding upfront. I'm not saying just because you decide upfront, there's never going to be any conflict in the process, but at least you will have a template and a checklist that you've gone through, and you have a base understanding of how you want to run this company together. And I highly recommend it to everybody. You can find it on the Guild as well. And it's also part of the Guild Academy program.
Yeah, those are amazing resources because, like I said, it's not something that's taught out there at a very early age. And sometimes some of this stuff, I think, depending on the business program, isn't really covered in as much depth either. So it's great that we have programs and that there are resources like what you're providing through the Guild Academy. The reference to the book you were sharing that I shared with you last week was Rocket Fuel. And that's how, as looking for a co-founder, you can take a quiz online to determine if you're a visionary or an implementer. Typically, most initial founders are visionaries, and so you need to find an implementer, a co-founder, to balance the needs of the company. So both of those are really cool ways of looking at and exploring the weaknesses that you have to find that co-founder. So I wanted to ask you, what is a story of inspiration that you're known for?
Yeah, I think it's the Guild, it's starting the Guild and sharing a little bit of my journey too. And, I'm not somebody who's born in Silicon Valley. I'm not somebody with a very rich family, who supports me. So a lot of people see me, they see my journey, and they see what I created, and then they realize, okay, I can do that too. And that's the inspiration I give them. I think, my journey of arriving in the United States and buying a red convertible and driving down Route 66, that one is very inspirational for a lot of people because it's like this limiting belief a lot of people have that they can't do that. And in fact, you can. It's really simple. You go to a car lot, you buy a car, you drive down Route 66, you sell it again. It's not that hard, and you have a wonderful time doing that. And I think that approach to things is inspirational for a lot of people. And a lot of people think in the back of their mind, and I'm sure you all do too, like I wish there was, or there's something that's not quite right about certain services or the way we live. And I wonder if we can change it. Or sometimes you see some things that are just not working and you realize, wouldn't it be so much nicer if there was just this one thing, and could I create that? And then people stop at that point and they're like, I don't know, because I feel like I need to know all these different things. And then I basically tell them, hey, just do it, and just go out and try it, and surround yourself with the right tribe, with the right people and the right tools, and then give it a go. And I think that's what I'm most known for in terms of inspiring people.
I love how simple you made that, just go buy the car, drive down Route 66 and resell it. It's so interesting how our negative thinking or imposter syndrome or the naysayers of people around us, sadly, will bring us down and keep us from taking action. So just like Anne said, what's holding you back, and what is that one step you can take towards that big dream? And what's stopping you? It's usually yourself. So take that step. I really encourage you to do that.
And what's the worst thing that can happen too, right?
Exactly.
Think about it each time when you think, no, I can't do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that could have happened is that I totaled the car. It was insured because I got insurance, and I would have paid for it. The worst thing that could have happened is I died in a car crash, which is true for anywhere in the world. The worst thing that could have happened is that I wasn't able to resell it, but you just go to a used car lot and they're going to take the car off you. Then you maybe lose some money, but is that the worst? If that's the worst thing, now you have a range between the worst and the best case scenario of you having the best time of your life, and you're selling that car at the same price you bought it, and you're not losing any money, and you're just having all these wonderful memories, and then you can balance these two, right? And I would say it's so true for anything in life. Like, always think about what is the worst thing that can happen, and then start arguing for it or against it.
I like that. And I also like how after you've looked at the worst case scenario, you're looking at the best case scenario. We often focus, and our brain is actually naturally angled towards negativity because our survival depended on it. So remember that, and make sure you look at what's the best possible outcome after looking at the risk that might be there. So I love that, Anne. So, Anne, you identified as a movement leader, and you've told us a lot about the movement you've already built. But what are some of the pillars to building that movement that catches fire?
Yeah, I think we're part of a bigger movement. We're part of the movement of helping change the odds for female entrepreneurs, so that there's more ideas from women that see the world, that there's more ideas and products and services that are focused on women see the world. And we do it by creating a few pillars. One is our community. It's a safe space where you can ask questions, where you can give advice, and where you can connect with people. So our one-on-one introductions are very particular to our community and our movement. I'm a big believer in connecting one-on-one with other people to really dive in and understand who they are, where they come from, what's their background, what's their motivation, and then you can align all these things that you want to do with who they are and what they want to do, and then you create these win-win situations. So we do that through these one-on-one introductions you mentioned, Holly, where we connect you once a week or once a month or once every other week with one other member in the community. And it's not just a random match, it's a match that's based on a lot of algorithms that I've built, a lot of behavioral science that we studied, and a little bit of artificial intelligence as well, looking at the matches we've created in the past and which ones seem to be good matches versus not so good matches. And then we learn over time which person could be a perfect match for you this week. And then we send you that introduction, and you can say, awesome, I want to connect with this person, or no, not a good match, or perhaps we need to reschedule. And yeah, that really helps you keep your networking going, especially in times like COVID-19, where you don't necessarily run serendipitously into people at events. And then we also have this educational pillar. I think it's really important, and we talked about this quite a bit, that you know where to go to find a step-by-step guide. And if you already know that and you already had some education, that's fantastic. But if you don't, then in our community, we give you webinars, we give you access to entrepreneurs who've done it. We give you events like Serendipity next week, where it's a whole week. It's full of amazing content and panels and workshops and webinars where you can connect with people and learn from them. And that's really, one of our core pillars there as well. And of course, the Guild Academy, which is our signature 8-week program, where we take you through the whole process of starting a business from idea to launch. And at the end, we give you the chance to connect with investors and angel investors and people with money and funds and the expertise to tell you if your business has legs. And that program is, I love teaching that, and I think it's a big part of our community because it's so it's something you can do tomorrow kind of thing, right? So yeah, those are the 3 pillars.
I love that. And community is really great. And I think so important, especially as an entrepreneur, because it can feel really lonely if you're not building a community in the business space. And it really is important to have a business tribe and an entrepreneurial tribe, because like you said, education and knowledge is so important. And one of the best ways to find that education and knowledge is through other people that have done it. And those are those other smart entrepreneurs that you have a connection with. So I think that those are just wonderful pillars of success, and something that really applies even in a career, at any part of life. We need that connection so that we can learn in the areas where we have gaps, and really stay stronger together, because we are better together.
Oh, I love that. And
So go
quick
ahead.
one there. When I arrived in Silicon Valley 8 years ago, I started this consumer product company with my husband, and I had never done hardware or anything. And it was such a lonely journey. It was super fun and all, but at the same time, I wish there had been a community and some people who told me how to do injection molding, how to ship things, how to do packaging, how to get onto these flash sale sites, and how to ship to 15 different countries, and all the shipping codes, and the all that stuff was, I had to learn everything from scratch. And of course, you make so many mistakes on that journey, right? Like how packaging was way too big for shipping, and da 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 da. So now I can give back whenever I have a consumer product company in my cohorts or in the community. Then I can tell them, well, watch out for that, and watch out for your BOM costs, and watch out for the lines for injection molding, and and I have so many contacts I can connect them with. And I can also tell them, no, these people are trying to rip you off, and these people seem to be legitimate. And all that knowledge I can now give back to the community. And I just wish there had been a community like that back then, and there wasn't. And so now there is, and there's more communities too, right? Like, it's not just the guild. There's so many amazing communities out there, and they're getting more and more vertical too. So if you're in e-commerce, there's awesome groups you can join, or if you're in consumer products or electronics or beauty and fashion or enterprise, right? There's a lot more communities now, and which is what I love.
Yeah. And I think, like Anne and I are both saying, it's impossible to know everything. And that's why it's so valuable and essential to have a community in a particular vertical or across entrepreneurship, so that you can lean on people if you need them. Yeah. So how do you gain trust, support, and buy-in for your movement?
You gotta be authentic. You gotta lead from the heart. You need to put your values first and make sure that you communicate them. And by leading by example, I mean, if you have a community where you post or you put out certain content, that really sets the tone for your community. And if you are negative and say, oh, look at this, only 3% again, and nothing changes, your community will follow that tone. And if you intend to be an uplifting, excited community that looks forward and is creating change, and you change that narrative in your communication online, in your communication in your newsletters, in your Instagram posts, and wherever else you're visible. And that really is a leading sort of torch that you carry, that then hopefully illuminates the rest of the community to kind of chime in that same tone. And again, I think it's really, really important that you are who you are, you're authentic, and you put your values first. And you also make sure that everybody else in your community, and if you have ambassadors or a team, follows those values. And that goes all the way to customer service. Like, how do you respond to somebody who's unhappy about your matches, or about that payment plan, or whatever it was, that your values guide the reaction to those kinds of questions.
Yeah, I love that every form of communication that you have across every avenue should reflect who you are authentically, and the values that you're representing as a person, as well as for your company. And like we were talking about, the challenge of people, it is probably one of the biggest challenges that I hear from clients is, how do you really onboard employees properly to make sure that the culture and the values are being represented in the way that you want them representing the company. And like you mentioned, customer service, that's really important because you want that customer and consumer experience to be elevated because there's so much competition out there. So knowing your values, communicating them clearly, and putting yourself out there authentically, I think is definitely the way to go to build your movement and your company. So thanks for sharing that. Is there an inspiring story tied to your movement that you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Well, I think, the current cohort of academy participants, to me, that's super inspiring, because I had my own limiting beliefs and thought, I'm not sure if in the middle of this pandemic, people want to go out and start their own businesses. And we offered it. We also committed to 50% of our seats to go to underrepresented female founders, African American, Latinas, veterans, and people with disabilities and so forth, who are typically not included in those kinds of programs. And I always thought, oh, you know what? We have scholarships so everybody can apply. So what's the big deal? Like, I don't need to call that out. And then Black Lives Matters movement happened, and I read a lot about it. And I'm from Germany, so for me, racism is very different in terms of how I understand racism. So I understood I have to learn quite a bit. And then I realized, okay, I have to call it out. I have to call out that we invite this community. And I did. And you know what happened? We have like 50% now in our cohort that identify as Latinas or African American or LGBTQ or any of the others. And it's super cool. Like all of a sudden, there's all these amazing women who are not usually given these opportunities. And now they got a chance to learn from Silicon Valley's best entrepreneurs and professors and authors and serial entrepreneurs in this program. And that's super inspiring. And to me too, because, I'm learning every day that they're actually taking the opportunity and they're doing it. And then to follow them and to see what they're creating, that is, that speaks for the guild and our community. It's not me doing awesome things and speaking at the World Economic Forum and all those things. It's like, that's great and all, that's PR, wonderful. But, like what it really comes down to is who are the people who are in our community and how well are they doing and how happy are they and how can we, serve them better. And that is the whole movement that's going to build. And we're going to see that next week too, in terms of how many people are coming out and speaking and how many people are coming and creating these little circles that we can communicate with during the virtual summit, and who is going to pitch a demo day and all that. It's not me, it's not the guild, it's not the brand, it's all you. And I love that. And that to me is incredibly inspiring. And it's very inspiring for the other people.
Yeah. And I actually just got goosebumps when you were sharing that. I think one of the most important pillars that we perhaps didn't share earlier, but came up just now, is when you're building a movement, it's really not about the person leading the movement. It's really about the change that you're trying to create in the world, the community, the company, whatever it is. And acting from a place of service. That's what came through to me when you were sharing that story. And that it's really about the impact you're having on the people that are in that movement and how their lives are changing for the better. So that's a beautiful story. I appreciate that. Yeah, so this has been great. We're going to dive into the lightning round questions now. So what's your favorite book?
Oh, favorite book. You asked me this last week and I still don't have a good answer because there's so many good books. I shared that I recently read fiction Paulo Coelho, Hippie, and I love that book, and I love to be able to dive into a different kind of culture and learn about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer, and he has really good books. So what networking or community group do you love most? And it's not a trick question.
It is not?
No.
I love the guild, but I also love a lot of the communities, like the Women Founder Unite one on Facebook. Um, then there's a great one in e-commerce that a friend of mine is leading, and then there's just a lot of really great communities out there. So find the one that fits for you, I would say.
Yeah. And it's interesting when I ask this question to people that have a community. I'm always, it's really funny. They're like, well, that's really awkward to answer. And I'm like, well, not really. I kind of expect you to answer with the community you've built if you really love it. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
And one other community I should say for anybody who is sort of in the corporate innovation world is called Change Catalyst Constellations. I'm an advisor to that group, and I was part of the very first retreat that they did. And it is a wonderful community for people who are a little bit sort of on the edge of burnout in creating change in your corporations and driving innovation forward. And they have an incredibly strong, really smart group of people, men and women, who get together to kind of like talk about how to best create change in big corporate America and in startups as well. So I highly recommend that community.
Yeah, I love that one. That's a really, really great resource to share with listeners. What's the best piece of advice you can share with others today?
Just do it. Just do it. I go with Nike.
I know, I was going to say, she's not stealing Nike's thing, but I mean, it is a good message. So I agree. If you could share one message with the world, what would that be?
Try to walk in someone else's shoes for even just an hour, and then see what happens. I think the world would be a much more empathetic place and much better place.
Yeah, we could certainly use more of that. So take that exercise to heart today and get to know somebody a little bit better and try to visualize walking through their shoes, what that experience is like. And I think that'll give us all more empathy and compassion. And my last question, what's the legacy you wish to leave behind?
It's really what we created with the guild. I would love for this to continue on. So if tomorrow I would be hit by a bus, then I would like for people to continue to connect and to continue to learn and to support each other and to share what they've learned. And if every woman who just stepped up one step in their career would reach down and pull up two more people, imagine what kind of an amazing effect that would be. That would be the most positive pyramid effect and scheme that you can think about. And that's true for the corporate world in leadership positions, etc., and for the startup world and the investor world.
I love that. Yeah, let's have a pyramid scheme that's about mentorship and giving back versus these other schemes out there. Yeah, if you're listening today, who are two people you could help in an area that you have become an expert in and you're really great at it, and reach out to them and provide them that support today. Well, Anne, this has been really wonderful. I have a couple notes that Anne's offering for free that I want to share. These will be in the show notes. The first thing she's doing is she's offering 1 free month of Guild Pro. So you can all the time sign up for regular Guild access, but she's added quite a few bonuses that are included with Guild Pro. Anything you'd like to add on that?
It's really the membership for people who want to be part of the community and want to also be engaged. So you can be part of the Pitch Feedback Fridays. You can take part in our book club. You can make use of the one-on-one introductions we talked about earlier. And there's many, many other goodies in there. We also have partnerships with companies that give you big discounts when you sign up for enterprise software or MailChimp or whatever that may be. And also our women in the community offer perks to their services and products, of course. And so we pass those benefits on to you as well. So that's what Guild Pro is all about. And you're welcome to check it out and try it out for 1 month. And then you can always say, no, I'll go down to the starter plan, or I continue with that pro plan. And it also has a VIP access ticket available for all our webinars and content.
Yeah, and I'm a member for Guild Pro. It's awesome. There's so much more that she hasn't even shared, so make sure you check that out and look at that link in the show notes. Also, anybody who signs up today, September 10th, gets a chance to win a free all-access Serendipity VIP ticket for our Serendipity conference. That's a value of over $279. So see the link in the show notes and sign up for that. It is a magical conference. Anything you'd like to add about Serendipity?
Well, we're really excited because we have so much content, and it's not like you have to attend each day for hours and hours. You can really pick and choose what's right for you in your career, in your entrepreneurship path right now. We have a startup alley there as well. We'll have a coaching lounge, and we'll also have a demo day and founder funnel lounge where people can connect with each other virtually. And every night there will be a happy hour where you get a chance to actually really meet other people. There's breakout rooms, there's different themes for those. And then every day in the morning we do a keynote. So you'll meet some pretty amazing speakers. So just check out the line up right now. And then you can choose different webinars each day around entrepreneurship, leadership, and also self-care, because I think that's a really important and sometimes overlooked part of being a badass. We also have to make sure we take care of ourselves, and so we have quite a bit of content around that too. So I think it's going to be a very different kind of virtual summit, and I'm very, very excited for it. So I hope to see you there.
Yeah, and I have to say, with what Anne has shared about this virtual summit, because I've participated in a lot this year that were not great, this is very well thought out. It's going to be very helpful, very inspiring, very uplifting, very different experience. So please do sign up on September 10th for that, or if you missed that date, sign up online and participate however you'd like. I'll also have some links to how you can follow Anne on her website and social media, so please see the show notes for that. Thank you so much, Anne. This has been a wonderful interview.
Thank you, Holly. This was great.
Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. What is one thing you can do in this moment that will inspire someone? Without action, nothing changes. Be the change you wish to see in the world. If this show truly inspired you, we ask that you share it through your network. Help us spread the light and inspiration in the world. I look forward to seeing you here next week.